You never know when a vacation might be a turning point in your career, but sometimes injustice happens so automatically that you don't even notice. For Lena Carter, that moment came on a Thursday afternoon at the Oceanside Resort in Coral Bay, Florida, when the hotel manager called the police because she was sitting by the pool. Lena was 36 years old, very dark-skinned, and had been working as a special agent in the FBI's Civil Rights Division for 12 years. During those years, she had investigated the very kind of discrimination she herself was about to experience. In 12 years, she had taken exactly 4 vacations. This was her 5th. She had brought her sister Maya along. Maya was 24, had just graduated from nursing school, and deserved to celebrate. It was going to be a simple vacation, spending a week at the beach or the pool. Everything was perfectly clear and prearranged. They were just going to have a quiet vacation. They had checked into the hotel at 9:15 that morning. The reception manager, Victor Larsen, had examined Lena's platinum credit card with obvious suspicion. He had checked the reservation confirmation for fraud and held her driver's license up to the light. Everything was in order. The payment went through immediately. However, the room keys were handed over with a smile that didn't reach his eyes and a lecture about the resort's policies, which Lena immediately recognized as targeting her. She ignored it. This was Maya's celebration. The pool was perfect. Maya chose 2 spots near the shallow end and applied sunscreen with the meticulousness of a nursing student. They deserved to have fun. "This is incredible," Maya said, turning her face to the sun. "I can't believe we're here." "You've earned every second of it," Lena replied. The morning passed peacefully. They swam, they read books, they ordered drinks from the waiter. Lena noticed something. Maya didn't. By the afternoon, the place had gotten crowded. Families, couples, groups, almost all of them were white, moving around as comfortably as if they'd never questioned where they belonged. Lena and Maya were discussing Maya's first hospital rotation when Victor appeared. He scanned the deck meticulously. He stopped when his gaze reached them. He spoke to a waiter, turned his back but kept his eyes on them while making a phone call, then walked in their direction. Things were about to get messy. "The manager is looking at us," Maya said quietly. "I see," Lena said. "Stay calm," she tried to reassure her. Victor stopped 3 steps away, his shadow falling across both chairs. "Good day. I hope you are enjoying our facilities," he said. But there was a strange feeling in his tone. "Yes," Lena said calmly. "Excellent. I wanted to confirm, are you registered guests?" he asked. Lena put down her book. "Room 847. We checked in this morning." "You processed it yourself," she said. "Of course. We've had problems with unauthorized pool use lately. Resort policy requires me to verify. May I see your room key?" he asked. Lena handed him the card. The room number was clearly visible. Victor barely glanced at it. "Unfortunately, key cards are transferable. Additional identification will be required," he said. He was clearly trying to make things difficult. Maya reached for her bag. Lena gently stopped her. She looked directly at Victor. "I would like you to provide a specific, clear, and non-discriminatory reason for requesting additional identification from 2 registered guests who have already been approved," she said. The word discriminatory was used deliberately. Phones appeared around the room. "Ma'am, I don't appreciate that tone," Victor said sharply. "I'm enforcing resort standards," he said. "For which guests?" Lena gestured around her. "I've been here for 3 hours. You've walked past 40 guests. I haven't seen you verify anyone else. So explain why you verified us," she said. More phones began recording from different angles. Victor pulled out his phone. "If you don't cooperate, I'll call the police," he threatened. "Please do," Lena said calmly. Maya's hand clasped Lena's tightly. Lena squeezed twice, a signal they'd used since childhood that meant, "Trust me." 11 minutes later, officers Brad Kellum and Jennifer Pike arrived. Kellum was in his mid-40s and moved with the air of undisputed authority. Pike was younger and clearly uncomfortable with what had brought them here. Victor met them at the deck's edge and spoke quietly, gesturing toward Lena and Maya. Kellum nodded several times, his expression suggesting he was confirming his assumptions. Pike seemed more uncertain. They approached together. 9 was recording. "Good day," Kellum said loudly. "There's been a report of unauthorized facility use. I need to see your identification and registration documents." "We're registered guests," Lena said. "Room 8047. We checked in this morning. It's already been verified by the resort staff. Room key is insufficient," Kellum said dismissively. "We need official ID and a credit card matching your reservation." "Under what legal authority?" Kellum's face hardened. "This establishment has the authority to request verification of your right to be here. You can cooperate, or we can take another route." "What other way?" The question was clear and unavoidable. Pike shifted uncomfortably. "Escorting you off the premises and potential trespassing charges," Kellum said, his hand moving to his belt. "The choice is yours." "I want you to consider something," Lena said. her voice calm but compelling. "Trespassing requires that we have no permission to be here. We have a paid reservation, our room key, and the documents we've already presented to the staff. Arresting us under these circumstances would constitute false arrest and a civil rights violation." Legalese cut through the afternoon noise. A few more recording devices moved closer. "You think you're smart," Kellum began. "I think I'm a paying guest who is being harassed based on assumptions about my appearance," Lena said. "And I think you're about to make a decision that will define your career." Kellum reached for Lena's wrist. Lena pulled back with a controlled movement. "Don't touch me. I'm not resisting, I'm asserting my rights. Physical contact without legal justification is assault." "That's enough. I'm taking out my wallet," Lena said clearly, her movements deliberate and slow. "Everyone can see my hands." She took out her black leather ID and opened it. The FBI badge caught the Florida sun and cast a golden glow on the deck. The ID next to it read, "Special Agent Lena Carter, FBI Civil Rights Division." Absolute silence. "Special Agent Lena Carter, Federal Bureau of Investigation," she said, her voice perfectly audible. "I am a federal law enforcement officer, and I am on vacation with my sister. We are registered guests with a confirmed reservation. We have broken no laws, violated no policies. Our only crime was being in a place someone assumed we didn't belong." She held her badge steady. 12 cameras recorded her. "Officer Kellum, you were called here on false pretenses to remove legal guests. You threatened to arrest a federal agent. 12 people are recording this. Think carefully about what you do next." Kellum's face flashed through a series of expressions before settling into a grim look of horror. Pike quickly backed away. "Headquarters, 7th Unit. Ignore the trespassing report. Take no action." Lena turned to Victor, who looked ill. "Call the company's legal department immediately. Discriminatory practices in public places violate federal civil rights law. You displayed this in front of witnesses, and a federal agent recorded everything. I will file complaints with corporate headquarters, the State Human Relations Commission, and the FBI Civil Rights Division. I have witnesses, video, and professional testimony." She sat back down. Maya sat next to her and squeezed her hand. "We're done for the afternoon. Everyone else, leave. Further contact without a legitimate reason constitutes retaliation. Understood?" Kellum and Pike left. Pike deliberately, Kellum like a man walking to his execution. Victor followed him, phone in hand, his confident demeanor shattered. The silence continued. Then applause began and spread across the deck. An elderly black couple approached. "Thank you," said the woman, her voice thickening. "We've been here 5 years. We never asked like this, but we wondered when it would happen. If you want to give witness statements, I have my contact information," said Lena. Before the afternoon was over, 7 people provided their information. That evening, Lena filed reports with 3 agencies: Police Internal Affairs, the resort company, and the FBI field office. She included the video taken from 4 angles, the 7 witness statements, a detailed explanation, and a request for body camera footage. The response came quickly. The police chief called within 18 hours. The resort's regional manager arrived the next morning, apologizing and bringing Victor's suspension. The FBI launched an investigation within 48 hours. The investigation confirmed findings of biased policing against Kellum. 60-day suspension, mandatory retraining, permanent file note. Pike was commended for de-escalation and cooperation and transferred to community policing. Victor was fired. The corporate investigation uncovered a pattern of dismissing complaints from Black and Latinx guests, evidence of selective enforcement, and disproportionate police calls for guests of color. A lawsuit was filed 3 months later. Attorney Rachel Chen, a civil rights specialist, Kellum sued the department, Victor, the resort, and its parent company. Charges: discrimination in public lodging facilities, wrongful arrest, federal violations. The resort reached a settlement within 6 months. Monetary compensation, a public apology, mandatory training, independent oversight, and a community oversight position filled by retired attorney Patricia Moore. The police department also underwent reforms. Verification protocols, body camera reviews, and civilian oversight with real authority. 6 months later, Lena returned for a compliance check. Maya came too. New diverse staff welcomed them warmly. The pool deck had changed. A different atmosphere. New policies. A bronze plaque. All guests welcome. Equal service guaranteed. Patricia met with them. "You made this possible." They reviewed every condition. She confirmed it was real change. Not perfect. Not complete. But real. That evening, Lena and Maya sat by the same pool where it all happened. The sunset painted the water gold and pink. Music played softly. Children splashed without anyone watching them suspiciously. Families of every background moved through the space with equal ease. No one was looking. No one was asking questions. No one was making assumptions about who belonged. "Was it worth it?" Maya asked. "All the statements, paperwork, time, emotional energy." Lena thought seriously about the question. She thought about the investigation, the legal proceedings, the media attention, the hours spent. She thought of Pike, who was genuinely trying to do better in community policing. She thought of Kellum's name now being in civil rights textbooks as an example of what not to do. She thought of the families swimming here who would never be questioned. She thought of the couple who thanked her in tears for doing what they never dared to do. Yes, she said firmly. Because no one who came after us was questioned. No family here wonders if they will be questioned. Everyone staying at any resort in this chain is treated fairly because the policies have changed. You can't perpetuate an injustice, you can stop, because fixing it means others won't have to go through the same thing. Maya rested her head on Lena's shoulder as she had done since childhood. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of both of us, Lena replied. When I chose to fight instead of leave, you stood by me. That mattered too. The last lights went out. Stars appeared above the palm trees. The pool lights turned the water a bright blue. A child laughed nearby. A pure, uncomplicated joy that came from feeling completely safe and welcome. Lena closed her eyes and let the sound envelop her. What she had learned during her 12-year FBI career was that justice was not a destination, but a direction. Every time a duty was fulfilled, every time a person documented rather than ignored, every time an institution reformed, even if imperfectly, step by step, undeniable progress was made. Her vacation had been cut short by discrimination. But instead, he learned that this pool deck, this resort, and these policies were different because he refused to accept that they couldn't change. The official investigation into Officer Kellum was thorough. Body camera footage revealed his assumptions, his aggressiveness, and his willingness to act on discriminatory calls without verification. The Department of the Interior confirmed findings of biased policing, abuse of authority, and inappropriate conduct. A 60-day unpaid suspension was issued, along with mandatory civil rights training and bias awareness courses. This notation, permanently added to Kellum's personnel file, would be followed up on in all future law enforcement applications. More importantly, the Civilian Oversight Board used Kellum's case as a catalyst for department-wide reform. New policies required officers to independently verify information before responding to unauthorized entry or suspicious person calls. Inspectors now reviewed body camera footage from all calls involving potential civil rights issues. The Oversight Board gained real investigative authority and the power to recommend disciplinary measures. Officer Pike's path unfolded differently. His body camera recorded his growing unease, his attempts to suggest alternative approaches, and his realization that these were being used to enforce discrimination rather than the law. His cooperation with investigators earned official recognition. His request for a community policing assignment was immediately granted. In his new role, Pike spent 2 years rebuilding trust with communities that were subject to excessive policing and lacked adequate protection. He attended community meetings, listened to concerns, and worked to change how officers approach situations. The reform was not complete or perfect, but it was a genuine step in the right direction. Victor Larsen's dismissal came after corporate investigators uncovered systemic problems. They found written complaints from Black and Latino guests dating back 3 years, all of which had been dismissed or ignored. They discovered internal correspondence showing that Victor had instructed staff to monitor certain guests more closely based on demographic factors. The most serious allegation was the discovery of records proving that Victor reported Black guests to the police 8 times more often than white guests in similar situations. The company's response went beyond Victor's dismissal. The parent company implemented mandatory anti-discrimination training at all its facilities nationwide. It hired independent auditors to review guest services practices. It established direct reporting channels for discrimination complaints, bypassing local management. It also created a community oversight position, fully funded it, and gave it real authority. Patricia Moore brought her 40 years of civil rights activism to this role. She had marched in the 60s, organized in the 70s, filed lawsuits in the 80s and 90s, and now in her 60s, she was ensuring that the company's commitments translated into real change. She reviewed complaint data monthly, conducted surprise audits every 3 months, and reported directly to the CEO and board of directors. When Lena met with Patricia during the compliance audit, Patricia showed her the numbers. Discrimination complaints had decreased by 70%. Guest satisfaction scores for Black and Latinx visitors had increased significantly. Staff diversity had increased at all levels. The changes were documented, measurable, and ongoing. "It's not perfect," said Patricia. "Incidents still happen. Staff still make mistakes. But now there are systems in place to catch those mistakes, address them, and learn from them. That's the real change. Not perfection, but accountability." Lena reviewed the training materials, audit reports, and complaint procedures. Everything was in order. The terms of the agreement were being fulfilled not just in letter, but in spirit. That evening by the pool, she thought about all this. The day Victor called the police, The moment she decided to stay instead of leaving. The calculation she made between resisting and avoiding conflict. The risk she took that it could end badly, that the badge might not be enough, that the cameras might not matter. He thought about what might have happened if it had been someone else. Someone without a badge, legal knowledge, or professional training. Someone who didn't know their rights or couldn't express them clearly. Someone who could have been arrested, charged, and tried for sitting by the pool at a resort they had paid for. Such a person existed. In fact, there were many such people. They had been questioned, removed, banned, and arrested at pools, hotels, restaurants, and stores across the country. Some had suffered physical harm. Some had faced criminal charges. Most, realizing that resistance could come at a cost they couldn't afford, had simply left. Lena was able to fight back because of her professional identity, but that was precisely why she had to fight, because she could, because she had resources others didn't, because documentation and accountability could prevent the next person from going through the same thing. The lawsuit made waves far beyond this resort. Other hotel chains reviewed their policies. Other police departments examined their intervention procedures. Civil rights organizations used this case in their educational materials. Law professors cited it as an example in their discrimination law classes. What began with a woman refusing to leave her pool chair became a precedent, a teaching tool, and a catalyst for broader change. Not everywhere, not completely, but in a measurable, documented, trackable, and verifiable way. Maya had asked if it was worth it. The answer was yes, because tonight, this pool, this piece existed. Because families were now swimming here without fear. Because the staff treated all guests equally. Because policies had changed, oversight existed, and accountability was real. The settlement agreement included monetary compensation, but Lena and Maya donated most of it. Half went to civil rights organizations doing similar work. The other half was given as scholarships to nursing students from minority communities, named after Maya, who stood by her sister that day and became part of the fight. Patricia Moore helped establish this scholarship. She also helped create a reporting system that made it easier for future guests to document and report discrimination. She ensured that diversity audits were conducted every 3 months and monthly training refresher programs were implemented. She insisted on consequences for policy violations and recognition for exemplary service. Systems matter, Patricia said during her discussions with Lena. Individual good intentions are not enough. Structures are needed that catch problems, address them, and prevent their recurrence. Your case helped create that here. Now, as Lena sat by the pool, stars above her head and her sister beside her, she felt the weight of it, not a burden, but a responsibility. In that moment, she had power, and she had chosen to use it. The result rippled out in ways she couldn't have predicted, but could now see and measure. Officer Pike had said something to her during the investigation. "I knew it was wrong," Pike had said. "Standing there watching Kellum threaten you, seeing Victor's obvious bias. I knew, but I didn't know what to do. Your reaction showed me. Staying calm, clearly stating your rights, documenting everything. That was the training I needed, but never got." Pike was now teaching this approach to new officers. With Lena's permission, he used the body camera footage from that day to show officers how good policing looked, in contrast to Kellum's actions. He taught de-escalation, verification, and respect for rights regardless of a person's appearance or where they came from. The changes weren't universal. Lena knew that. Her job at the FBI showed her every day that discrimination persisted, that officers still abused their power, that businesses still excluded customers based on race. A single case, even if it had a good outcome, did not solve systemic problems. But it contributed. It contributed to the mounting pressure for change. It provided a template for accountability. It showed that documentation worked, that standing firm mattered, that systems could be forced to respond when violations were too obvious to ignore. Maya was also affected by this incident. She returned to her job at the hospital with a new awareness of how institutions function, how power operates, and that the cost of raising one's voice, whatever it may be, is less severe than the cost of remaining silent. She joined the Nurses Union's Equality Committee. She began documenting the incidents occurring in her unit. She had become someone who understood that witnessing injustice brought with it a responsibility to respond. "You taught me that," Maya said. "That day by the pool, watching you refuse to leave, refusing to accept being treated that way, you taught me that we don't have to accept injustice, that we don't have to accept it because fighting it is uncomfortable or risky." Now, they were sitting together in that place transformed by that refusal. The pool where it had happened was beautiful in the evening light, peaceful and more inviting than ever before, not because the physical space had changed, but because the policies governing it had changed. Lena thought of her father, who had died when she was young but had taught her a crucial lesson. You fight for what is right, not because you will always win, but because the fight itself matters. Because resisting injustice has value, even if the outcome is uncertain. Because standing up changes you, regardless of whether it changes the situation. That afternoon, she had stood up. The situation had changed. But more importantly, it had shown that change was possible, that accountability could be enforced, that even if systems seemed designed to keep them powerless, the victims of discrimination were not powerless. Evening fell. More stars appeared. As families left the pool to go to dinner, it slowly emptied. Lena and Maya stayed, enjoying the peace, satisfaction, and well-deserved rest after their hard work. Next vacation, Maya finally said, "Let's have a vacation where you don't have to arrest anyone or file a federal lawsuit." Lena laughed. "I didn't arrest anyone. I just refused to be arrested. You know what I mean." "I know. Yes, next time let's have a boring vacation where the most dramatic event is choosing between the beach or the pool." Agreed. They didn't want to leave, but they knew the evening would naturally come to an end. On the way back from the resort, Lena noticed small changes everywhere. More diverse staff, more welcoming signs, a more inclusive atmosphere. In their room, Lena checked her work emails one last time before going to bed. A message from Patricia caught her attention. Another resort in the same chain, realizing that corporate leadership changes were necessary and right, had proactively implemented the same reforms before any lawsuits were filed. Ripples, spreading outward, one case leading to broader change. Sometimes, Lena thought as she turned off the light, the most important cases begin with someone who refuses to leave when told they don't belong. Sometimes justice begins with staying in your seat.